We've had the privilege over the last, since really 2015, to travel from coast to coast, from California and Oregon, Florida, New York, everywhere in between, and speak in public schools and private schools and community events. And really, I always say, anywhere they let me go with my bun, I go and I talk. And it's been an honor that we've been in front of nearly 1 million people on one platform or another. And the last year, it actually went international. We did schools in Sao Paulo, Brazil, schools in Tokyo, Japan, did schools in Guatemala City, Guatemala, and Hera, Zimbabwe. And honestly, it's been just a real humbling experience to get to live life with so many people. And honestly, the message is what I always say when I speak in communities is my story, your story, it's the story. It's really just the story of people desiring to want to belong. It's really the story of people desiring to want human connection. It's really just the story of people trying to figure out who we are and what we want to become and what we want to achieve. And we have all of these pressures though. We have the pressure of the culture. We have the pressure from our peers. We have the pressure from our communities. Students have pressure of school, pressures to perform. Parents have pressures of bills to pay and to take care of people. Like raising children, it's probably one of the most challenging, fearful, crazy, amazing, exciting, what are we doing? Like literally as parents, we're shaping the culture of humanity because the kids, the children that we're raising, like they're going to go on and do something. And that something can be good or that something can be bad. Like being entrusted with raising little people, it freaks me out. And I have 2 kids now. My daughter's name's Juliana. I call her Juju Bug. My son's name Ashton. His nickname's Ashton Ree. He had to have a man bun like his dad. And my wife's Alexis. And when we talk about human connection, when it's all said and done, regardless of what we portray, people just want to belong. And in the last few years, as we traveled the country, and I started just in Indiana, literally, this was like a grassroots movement. I started Your Life Speaks organization, and in about 2016, I started going into public schools, and 1 turned to 10, and 10 turned to 50, and 50 turned to 100 in Indiana, and then it went national. And since 2017, 18, and 19, we've been honored, privileged, and grateful to get to work with over 750 different public schools and communities from coast to coast, nearly actually almost 1,000 now. And it's just been a really crazy, amazing journey. And tonight, what I want to live life with you guys about, as we grow together, as we can continue to empower each other, is to hopefully help unpack what I've learned by experience. I don't have all of this figured out by any means, shape, or form. There are a lot of people with like PhDs that we would call doctors that have been to school for many, many, many years that are well more probably educated. But what I have been able to do is I've been able to navigate this journey through experience. And what I have been able to do is to live life with many of these doctors, many of these really well-educated people when it comes to mental health, when it comes to substance abuse. And I've got to glean and to learn and be like a sponge. Actually, this school year, this past 2019, I was able, and we just finished wrapping a documentary on global mental health. We traveled all across the country, all across the world. I spoke to doctors at Cornell University and Harvard University. We spoke to doctors from Phoenix University. We spoke to thousands of students. We spoke to psychologists and psychiatrists in Zimbabwe and also in Brazil. And what we've learned more and more than ever, no matter where I went, because let's be honest, the stats that we just heard from our police chief, how in 1 in 4, mental health is at an all-time high. Anxiety, depression, suicidal ideologies, self-harm, self-injury, drug and substance abuse, that all comes from the same place. The epidemic when we see with opiate use and prescription pills, the alcoholism that's at all-time highs. But all of this really, it comes from what we try to unpack tonight is at the core of all of this, we just want to belong. want to matter. And we're losing our ability to have a voice. We're losing our ability to communicate. No matter where I went in the world, no matter the leading voices, if it was Dr. Patel or Dr. Whitlock or Dr. Stropman, as they talked about mental health and self-injury or digital citizenship and the technology that's beginning to cause us some situations, no matter where I went across the country, across the world, mental health, anxiety, depression, substance abuse, it's at an all-time high everywhere. But everywhere that we talked and everywhere that we communicated, the message that rang loud and clear was our desire for human connection. I want to take you back into a little bit of my story tonight. I come from Indiana. I was raised with a family of 4, mom, dad, sister, and me. My father, I share in the public schools or anywhere that I get to communicate about the relationship that I had with my father. Because growing up, he was my hero. He was this mentor in my life. I looked up to him. And honestly, my parents, they never had fights. They never had arguments. I was naive enough to think in my youth that I had a picture-perfect family. And what happened with my father is he would always challenge me to take control of my life. And I have all these little side stories I talk about, like him challenging me. He never let me win anything. If it was a basketball game, if it was a game of chess, if it was a game of horseshoes, if it was tic-tac-toe, like my father would always demoralize me, beat the brakes off of me, because he always wanted me to know hard work works. Make good choices, good things happen. And ultimately, what he was really trying to teach me was to learn when things aren't going your way, giving up is not an option. At a young age, he was trying to teach me resiliency and perseverance. And honestly, that's something that many of us in the culture today, we lack. Our roots aren't deep. The reason is, it's not anyone's fault. But the world today, it's so fast-paced. The world today, we have so many things on our plate. We have school, we have work, we have society, we have the culture, we have our social life, we have technology, we have all these expectations, and we find ourselves comparing and competing, and what's happening is our roots aren't going as deep as what they used to. We just have more on our plate. And when we don't have a deep root system, storms and adversity can blow us over much easier. I always tell parents this, that the same struggles that many of you had when you were younger, those same issues, those same challenges, they're knocking us over as youth a little easier because our roots aren't as deep. And I have some reasons why. Because like it, love it, or leave it. The same generation that we as the adults in here grew up with, I always love it when I'm in Kansas because I can literally say we're not in Kansas anymore. Because the truth is, the world has changed and it's never ever going to be the same. Technology is now a factor of society, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but right now we are at the very forefront of an evolution, a revolution that we will never have to face ever again.